My ministers will also proceed with the introduction of digital ID that will modernize how citizens interact with public services. My ministers will also proceed with the introduction of digital ID
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. King Charles and the global order are once again announcing a digital ID. We've heard this many times over, but of course we've seen backlash from so many different parts of the world where people are not willing to accept a digital ID, and which is pretty amazing considering what a dumbed down society we live in, where people think that their vote actually counts, that their vote means something, that their say in something means something, that they have free will. These are obviously all illusions inside of this matrix. But people don't want to be bothered with a digital ID, but they don't seem to understand the ramifications of it. And we need to go into detail about King Charles making this announcement and what this means for the future world order moving forward, including here in America, where most people are so disillusioned with MAGA and Donald Trump that they think there's no way that he would ever implement a digital ID. But in fact, out of all the countries in the world, the United States of America is most primed for a digital ID based on the artificial intelligence data center infrastructure that our current regime is building out right in front of our faces. And while people are worried about resources being diminished in these data centers, that it's going to take up too much water or take up too much electricity, those are distractions they want you to think about instead of saying, why are these being built? What do we need these for? And of course, all of this ties into the digital ID and the digital currency, as well as a digital control system, which in fact is the matrix, where everything you do and say will be monitored, tracked, and saved inside of these data centers, inside of your digital profile, which is really your digital twin that they are building out. So King Charles makes this announcement. You may have remembered, I covered this about a year ago, where they announced that in the UK that a new digital ID would be mandatory to work in the UK. And of course, that led to a lot of backlash where people were saying, we are not accepting a digital ID. We do not want a digital ID. And King Charles, as you could hear, angrily said, we are bringing in a digital ID, of course, for their coming one world system. Now, King Charles, of course, we know, is obviously like everybody else in power. These people give you the illusion, other than the monarchy over there in England, where somehow people are willing to accept that these people continue to retain power. We're disillusioned in countries like America thinking that our vote counts, but in fact, it's a monarchy as well. They pick and choose who to put in power as we fight among each other with Democrats and Republicans, stripping ourselves of our freedoms and our rights. But King Charles, of course, is as demonic as they get. You may remember this portrait that was drawn of King Charles, which in itself looks demonic, but of course we all uncovered this. When you put it side by side, you mirror the image of King Charles, you could actually see the Baphomet right in the center of that image, clear as day. These are all Satanists right in front of our faces. The goat worship is endless that we see. We have stories linking King Charles to a sculpture of a goat that he made 55 years ago. These are things that they put out for you to see, to rub it in your face, that these people are in fact Satanists as they normalize the goat in our society. King Charles granting a goat a royal title. King Charles and the Queen consort, they meet with a goat mascot. All these stories about him and the goat. But of course, what we really should be focusing on is King Charles and his affiliation with globalists like Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum. Now, of course, King Charles and the bloodline is higher ranking than Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum. But what people should pay attention to is the connection between all government leaders, whether they're monarchs like in England, where we're told, well, this is the royal family that continues, the rule of the law over there continues through the monarchy and the royal family, or in other countries where we're under this disillusion that we vote these people in. Every one of them, whether they're fake voted in or they're monarchies like with King Charles, all have a direct connection to the World Economic Forum. They all attend these meetings. They all are there telling you the same exact things, like the Great Reset, right? And of course, the Great Reset, most people think had to do with just some of the stuff that went on with vaccinations during COVID-19. But really what they were talking about, if you pay attention closely, is they were talking about a digital ID, digital currency, and the coming carbon footprint, which of course will enslave humanity into this strict rule of law where you can only buy certain items, you get allowances for this or that based on your carbon footprint, you can only drive X amount of miles. All these things can't be enforced until a digital ID is in place. But of course, they've told us that they want a great reset, and really what they've talked about with the great reset is as if it's a business, an economic great reset. And what they're talking about is bringing in a new infrastructure, which is this digital infrastructure system.
We have a unique but rapidly shrinking window of opportunity to learn lessons and reset ourselves on a more sustainable path. It is an opportunity we have never had before and may never have again. So we must use all the levers we have at our disposal.
A unique opportunity to reset our global agenda. So let's use this window of opportunity.
Now is the historical moment, the time, not only to fight the real virus, but to shape the system.
The current pandemic has brought unimaginable devastation to people's lives, livelihoods, and national economies. At the same time, the green recovery represents an unprecedented opportunity to rethink and reset the ways in which we live and do business.
So, of course, again, with COVID-19, the Great Reset, most people were just focusing on mass genocide and how these governments were forcing inoculations on people who didn't want it. Then they were brainwashing people into getting it. Then they were brainwashing people who got it into belittling people who didn't get it, forgetting about what being immune to a disease is supposed to be according to the science of what a vaccination does, right? Which is supposed to make you immune, so you shouldn't care if other people have it or not. But the Great Reset was about more than obviously just getting people to commit suicide pretty much by putting these poisons inside of their body. The big thing that they were pushing, if you paid close attention, was they wanted a digital quote-unquote passport. The WHO released the plan for the global digital vaccine passports, which of course were funded by Bill Gates and the Rockefeller Foundation. And we heard these globalists time and time again talk about having this stuff implemented for the next outbreak. But of course, that didn't necessarily work because most people didn't buy into their propaganda because they pushed so hard. They actually pushed people away from their PSYOP because of how desperate they came across by telling you they would give you gift cards, how they would give you free meals, they would give you this and that if you got vaccinated, how once you got the vaccine, you never have to wear a mask again or get a vaccine again until, of course, you got it. And then they told you still had to wear a mask and you still needed to get boosted every couple of weeks. And people started realizing, wow, you know, the government doesn't give us stuff for free. Why aren't they selling us the vaccine to COVID? Why are they giving it to us for free? Because it was all about getting under your skin and digital monitoring. But here they were again, talking about during COVID, how a digital ID was necessary. And it's important to remember that because this push that you've seen over the last decade now has been about getting a digital ID in place. And that's what King Charles is now saying. Look, I'm bringing in a digital ID whether you like it or not, because nobody's buying into the stories that they're trying to create, such as voter fraud and immigration issues and COVID viruses circulating, being able to track who has vaccinated and who's not. These are all things that they're desperately trying to do to bring in their control system because the entire system runs on having a digital infrastructure, which means having a digital ID, which is so important. It's the most crucial element to all of it.
This issue to do with the technology and the digital infrastructure, I just want to emphasize how important I think that is. Because in the end, you need the data. You need to know who's been vaccinated and who hasn't been. Some of the vaccines that will come on down the line will be multiple. There'll be multiple shots. So you've got to have, for reasons to do with the healthcare more generally, but certainly for a pandemic or for vaccines, you've got to have a proper digital infrastructure. And many countries don't have that. In fact, most countries don't have that.
And here is mine. So everyone who is fully vaccinated or tested negative or has recovered from COVID can get one. And we have right now 50 member states that have already signed up. And from the 1st of July, all 27 member states have to apply these EU digital certificates for the COVID.
So again, that was them pushing the digital health passport, the digital, the digital ID. It's just a different name for it. Of course, Trump has been pushing that as well in America recently. But the big thing they've shifted from COVID to are these other PSYOPs. It's why you don't hear about COVID anymore. At the time, they told us it was never going to go away. We were never going to stop hearing about it. But again, remember, the internet is nothing more than a data hub for them. And they saw how many people questioned COVID. Then they saw how many people didn't get vaccinated. Then they saw how many people didn't believe their propaganda. Then they said, you know what? We're just going to not mention it anymore, and we're going to quietly shift. We'll still offer the COVID vaccine for the people who are dumb enough to continue to go and get it, which, believe it or not, there are. But now we'll shift to other stories. So what did we get? Voter ID, right? Because we've never had people more trapped in the left-right hive mind than we have now. So all we've heard about is how suddenly the government doesn't check your ID for you to go and vote. How convenient that this is now happening, right? All of a sudden, the government doesn't check your ID. They're letting illegals vote. They don't want people to show identification. All these things they're doing are to drive you crazy into accepting a digital ID. Meanwhile, while all of this stuff is going on with Trump talking about, oh boy, we got to push voter ID laws, which really is their way of hinting at a digital ID. Because the only way they'll be able to do it and track it, as they've told you, is via a digital ID. That it's too easy to get around a lot of the stuff at the border, people crossing the border illegally, that they'll need something digitally to be scanned to get across. People are falling for it because of how deep the left-right hive mind is. But they're not paying attention to the most important thing going on around us, which is Donald Trump and the White House accelerating the data center infrastructure, building trust in AI, as the World Economic Forum says, through a new global governance framework. The World Economic Forum's call for AI governance. That's what this is all about. In order for this to come to fruition, these data centers need to be in place. The data centers are absolutely mandatory. This is according to the AI machine itself. And this is according to common sense itself, if you understand how this new world order is being built out. And of course, you won't hear information like this from the controlled alt-right media, because their job is to keep you distracted in the left-right paradigm, fighting over liberal policies and conservative policies, while all these guys are in bed with one another, keeping you talking about non-issues when this is the biggest issue that there is. The data centers being built out. Do not worry about the resources, because they're going to ration our resources eventually when the carbon footprint is in place. Data centers are mandatory for the deployment and daily operation of both digital ID and central bank digital currencies. Period. Neither system can exist in a vacuum. They require massive, highly secure, and continuously running computing infrastructure to function. Without data centers, the digital architecture required to verify identities and process nationwide financial transactions would not exist. So everybody out there is just looking at it and nobody's going, what is the purpose of these? Why do we need them? And you've heard the government come out and say, hey, you're not paying for it. We promise it's not your tax money. Facebook, Meta, all these people are going to pay themselves. Meanwhile, Meta is really run and controlled by DARPA and the CIA. All these tech companies are really just umbrella name corporations of your government. So technically, your tax money is building all of this out. Do you really expect them to come out and tell you that you're paying for it? Because then you might question what it actually is. Then you might say, I want to know what the data centers are for. But because they're giving you the illusion that you're not paying for it, not to worry about it, that your energy bill's not going to go up, they're not going to deplete resources, they're getting people to turn their heads away from all of this. Now, while King Charles announces the digital ID, it's very important to pay attention to the other stuff going on in the world, because if you pay attention and open your eyes, you'll say, that is very strange. That doesn't make a lot of sense, but it does make perfect sense. Why Donald Trump is in China. And all these stories we see with Donald Trump and China is about Iran and the Strait of Hormuz. Oh, what's going to happen with oil? But if you pay close attention to what's really going on there, did you see who Trump went over to China with? He went over there with the top U.S. tech business leaders, right? Guys like Elon Musk. So all these tech guys, think about just if you were under the illusion, you're like, okay, Donald Trump goes to China, these guys meet together. You would think it would be senators, other politicians, other members of his cabinet. But no, who did Donald Trump bring with him? Well, I'll show you who he brought. We'll start with all of these big tech guys, from Apple to NVIDIA to Elon Musk. But keep in mind, when we're talking about all these tech guys going to China, how China's government is run. China's internet ID, which is in place, a digital ID, it is their control system that they have in place in China. China's web ID gives the government grip over everything you do and say online. Once they implemented the digital ID, they then have control over what you can and cannot say online, which goes into a social credit score, like I've showed you before in the horror story of the TV series, or the Netflix series, I should say, Black Mirror. right? You have a social score based on your online behavior and your offline behavior, right? Your online behavior is what you say online. Are you questioning the government? You are, down goes your credit score. No different than not paying a credit card off. It's the same exact type of system, just based on behavior, right? And you might say, well, there's nothing I should worry about. Oh, yeah? Well, if you're a Democrat and Trump's in power, your credit score is going to be really, really low, right? Because you don't like what he's doing. And if Biden's in power and you're a Republican, your credit score is going to be really, really low. And how does this affect you? Well, it affects you the same way it affects people in China. Not allowed to travel, limits on your bank account, government showing up at your front door, imprisonment in many cases. And I'd like to show you this post from Elon Musk because it shows you how they show you this stuff in plain sight. How they say, this is how dumb you all are. I'm Elon Musk, a character who is playing the role of, this smart entrepreneur technocrat here in America who has built out all this enterprise. He's a billionaire. You should aspire to be like me. These people drool over the stuff Elon Musk does and says now because he aligned himself with Donald Trump. We've seen conservatives who said they would never drive electric, now driving electric. Well, he tweets this out. And he plays this music in there, trying to make himself look like, oh, yeah, it's Elon Musk. He's a bad boy. He doesn't fit in here. Pay attention to the people in the room that Elon Musk is showing you. Don't pay attention to the background music, the selfies, the, stupid faces he's making. And ask yourself, what are these people doing with the president of the United States in China? So you can see how easy it is to be distracted when Elon Musk is showing you in plain sight, right? Because this stuff is all being revealed to us, but no one's paying attention. They make everything into a joke. It's entertainment, playing some music. Oh, Elon Musk is in the room. He doesn't fit in with these guys. No, he fits right in with these guys. He's the face of technocracy that is coming with the technology that they are getting you to purchase, bring into your home, and normalizing in your day-to-day life. But if you looked around the room, right, we could start right here. Larry Fink was in the room, right? Now, you think Trump might have issue with Larry Fink, right? Remember the whole assassination, the first fake one, maybe the fakest one of all. I don't know. They got faker by the second. I've obviously exposed all of them, and those videos are available on the website at callfornuprising.com if you haven't seen them and you're new to the channel, although there's not many new people because this channel's completely suppressed, hasn't gotten over 1,000 subscribers in 6, 7, 8 years. But nonetheless, we all remember the BlackRock assassin, right? This kid who happened to be the shooter who looks like he couldn't even ride a bicycle, somehow outsmarted the Secret Service, came within a milli-inch of blowing off Donald Trump's head. Of course, never lived to tell the lie. We never saw a body or anything else. He was in the BlackRock ad, right? So you might think, maybe it's a little bit awkward in the room with Trump and Larry Fink. Maybe Trump saying, hey, this kid coincidentally was in one of your commercials and he tried to blow my head off. But if you don't know, BlackRock runs and controls everything. I mean, them and Vanguard, cities, these corporations have their hand in everything, right? So we know BlackRock pulled a commercial. Trump never brought attention to it, of course. He could even hug Larry Fink at the World Economic Forum, and none of these magatards would actually blink. But if you're not paying attention, Larry Fink, of course, has a tie-in with China, right? Because China's system that is in place, their digital ID system, is about monitoring human behavior. China's behavior monitoring system bars some from travel and purchasing property based on your behavior. Now, everybody out there is a bit of a narcissist in today's world, unfortunately. Not myself, but people, and probably not many of you. But we see these people, right, who are living in a different reality. They're on their phone and walking down the street. They don't even hold a door for you. They're living in another dimension. Most of these people would say, well, I don't have to worry about behavior. I'm a good person, because they think in their head, like a stooge, well, behavior means am I going to murder somebody? Am I going to rob a bank? No. Your behavior is, are you questioning the government or not? And at all times, most people are questioning the government, okay? Because it just depends nowadays if it's your leader in charge, because we have two communist parties, the Republican and the Democrat. Same thing. Your party could do no wrong, right? So we don't see any of these magatards questioning what's going on with the rolling out of these data centers or anything else that Donald Trump's doing in plain sight. But China's system is based on behavior control, scaring you by threatening you and saying you can't go to the bank and take out money, you cannot travel if your behavior doesn't live up to what our standard is. And that doesn't mean committing murders or crimes. It means, are you questioning what we're doing? Are you listening to what we're saying? Are you wearing a mask when we tell you? Are you trying to leave your house when we tell you that you have to stay in after 8 because there's a curfew? All those things will negatively affect your score because your behavior is showing that you're not listening to Big Brother, right? That is how their social credit system works. China's social credit scores reward and punish their citizens. And Larry Fink, of course, is all about behavioral control, as he's told us many, many times. They will reward good behavior and punish bad behavior.
That's an investment criteria for you.
Well, behaviors are going to have to change, and this is one thing we're asking companies. You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock we are forcing behaviors. 54% of the incoming class are women. We added 4 more points in terms of diverse employment this year, and what we're doing internally is if you don't achieve these levels of impact, your compensation could be impacted. Okay,
we're doing the same thing.
And so it's just you have to force behaviors, and if you don't force behaviors, whether it's gender or race or just any way you want to say the composition of your team, you're going to be impacted, and that's not recruiting, it is development, as Ken said. And ultimately, it's still going to take time, but I am just as much shocked as Ken is that we have not seen more opportunities, and we're going to have to force change.
So, behavioral control. Larry Fink is there, of course. Nobody would question why he'd be there with Donald Trump in China, because that's the blueprint. China's government system is the global order, and it's what they want to install in every single country. But it's going to be under an illusion, how it comes in, right? People in America, it's not going to be forced on us. We're just going to have a digital ID so we don't have these scumbag Democrats stealing our elections. Once it's in place, that's all that matters. Once everyone accepts it and takes it in, that's all that matters. So they have to think of every which way they can to get it in place. That's why it's different in different countries, how they're rolling it out, right? Who else was there? NVIDIA. NVIDIA's CEO was there, right? And you might go, what's he doing there? Well, I don't know, right? NVIDIA only plays the largest and most defining role in the current data center build out, right? NVIDIA, if you've paid attention, is the numero uno in regards to the AI data centers being built out. Everything runs through NVIDIA and their chips and their data center build out because they're going to be the nucleus of these AI factories that they're building out. And then, of course, we have Elon Musk there. Nobody questioning Elon Musk, his connection to technocracy, his grandfather, one of the founders of the technocratic movement, the techno-utopians. Again, this defies God, this utopian mindset that they think they can build out where we could have a utopian society. I think Christians are disillusioned that the world is supposed to be a utopian world. Well, not after the garden, not after the fall. There is no utopia happening here on earth, which is why we're not to be ones with this world. We're not to be lovers of this world. But nonetheless, the techno-utopians want to put scientists in charge of government. If you paid attention, again, Elon Musk's grandfather, one of the founders of the technocratic movement. I've gone over it many times. If you look at the map and the tech native America, what does that look like? Oh, wait a minute, it's extended. I see Canada up there. I see Greenland, even Mexico. I even see, is that Venezuela? Didn't we capture their president and say we took over the land there? Interesting. 1930s movement wanted to merge the U.S., Canada, and Greenland. Sounds a lot like what's going on today with Doge and Trump and Musk. Is that a coincidence? Of course not, because none of it is. So all of this stuff in China with all of these big tech corporations, which are really fronts for your government, they're all there meeting with China. And nobody's going, why are they there? Why is Elon Musk there? Why is NVIDIA there? Why is Apple CEO Tim Cook there? Well, because it's all about what King Charles said, implementing a worldwide digital ID. And King Charles's other buddy, Bill Gates, has told you numerous times, how important a digital ID is because they want to monitor your behavior online. Deep fakes. Are you posting things online that are false, but telling people that, Bill Gates and these people eat babies? Oh my goodness. Well, we're going to have a digital ID in place so you can't be anonymous anymore. You can't be a call for everybody. We're going to put your name to it. And then we're going to crucify you in public and arrest you and make a name out of you or whatever, make a story out of you so everyone else is afraid to actually speak the truth because we are the controllers of truth, right? Listen to Billy Boy here tell you that.
Every country struggling to find that boundary. The U.S. is a tough one because, we have the notion of the First Amendment. And so what are the exceptions, like yelling fire in a theater, and because you're anonymous online, it can be worse. I do think over time, with things like deep fakes, most of the time you're online, you're going to want to be in an environment where the people are truly identified. That is, they're connected to a real world identity that you trust instead of just people saying whatever they want. And so the idea of provenance, who sent me this email, was that really them? We're going to have systems and behaviors that we're more aware of. Okay, who says that? Who created this?
And of course, Billy's always been one of the faces of the digital ID. So all these clowns are in China as King Charles talks about bringing in a digital ID as the only government really in the world. We know Australia has a digital ID, but I mean, the system itself with a social credit score, the only place that it's really in place is in China, right? And Trump goes there with all these guys, including Tim Cook, right? Fudge Pack and Tim Cook. And what's that time? What's Apple's time? Well, Apple just introduced a digital ID, right? Think about that. Apple introduced a digital ID. Now, another thing to remember when it comes to the digital ID and getting people to accept it is something you've probably noticed in your day-to-day life, but you're just getting adjusted to it, but it probably annoys you every single time you log in somewhere, right? You got to create a passkey, right? They keep asking you, create a passkey, and you're just like, I don't want to create one. Skipping it for now. Eventually, you will not be able to skip it. Or how about logging into anything and then having to get a code texted to your phone? Is that annoying anyone? How come 10 years ago when the internet just began, or whatever, 20 years ago when people just were using their phone with the internet, no, you didn't have to do any of this stuff. A password was sufficient. Well, now you need a passkey. Now we have to text you every time you log into a website, so that we can make sure that it's actually you because they care about your identity being so. No, because they're using these tactics to wear you down into accepting a digital ID. And Apple's role in that is that Apple is the most trusted personal computer brand in America. Apple is the most popular. It's the most trusted. Everybody speaks of Apple on a different pedestal than companies like Samsung. It's Apple this, Apple that. Apple can do no wrong. Got to get the new iPhone, got to get the new iMac, got to get this, got to get the Apple Watch, whatever it's called, right? And that's Apple's role in this. Apple introducing the digital ID. But what's ironic about all of it, when we go back to King Charles, the first thing it's not really ironic, what's truthful about all of it, is that when we go back to King Charles talking about a digital ID, is that the first thing they have to do is get you to get this on your phone, which means you don't need a physical license anymore. And people are likely to eventually accept it because they're getting worn out from things like passkeys and getting texted codes. And eventually just go, fine, what's the difference? I'm scanning my phone at the airport to get on a plane. I'm using my phone to get dinner reservations. I mean, I've talked about this over the years, the conditioning, right? You go to a restaurant now, some of them don't even give you menus. Been to Chili's in the last decade? They don't have menus anymore. They got barcodes there. You got to scan it on your phone to look at the menu. And of course, if you ask them, they'll go get you one, but they've all been told, do it this way. Why? Because it's a conditioning mechanism. So eventually you cave and you just go, what's the difference? What's the difference? I already got all of the stuff on my phone. Might as well have it all there, right? Might as well have it all there. And then, of course, until the phone's obsolete, right? Until there's stories about losing your phone, somebody getting your phone, having access to your phone and being able to hack into your stuff that way, or just people like Elon Musk, who I've covered many times, telling you that smartphones are going to be obsolete. Zuckerberg, smartphones are going to be obsolete. So if a smartphone is going to be obsolete and all the world is running on phones and they want you to have a digital ID, shouldn't you be saying to yourself, well, if it's going to be obsolete, then what the heck is going to be next? I mean, we're going to go back to horse and buggy? Are we going to go back to physical ID? They're trying to get us away from a physical ID. Of course, what's next is brain chips, computer brain chip interfaces, right? Things like Neuralink. There'll be no phones. You'll be using brain chips. And who is front and center other than Elon Musk and Tesla? Apple is. Apple is running out their support for their brain implant control of its devices, where a brain implant in your mind you could see in front of your eyes. Right now they use the virtual goggles. It's just another thing that they're using to transition you. They're all transition pieces, right? The wearable tech is a transition to the tech being in your body. Same with the goggles. Eventually these things are going to be in your body. You're going to see a computer interface like your iPhone. When you look at the interface, when you're holding it in front of you, you'll see it out of your retina. And it might sound crazy because you've seen it in movies, but they're already selling things like that with the Apple lenses and stuff like that to condition you into a world where you're half man, half machine. Black Mirror showed it best, right? Where you become one with your phone.
Hello, Bethany speaking.
What are you doing?
This is Bethany. Can you hear me?
Well, you're right in front of me.
But can you hear me down the phone?
Oh my God.
This is me. On the phone, I had it implanted. My hand is the phone. I can walk and talk because I'm on the phone inside my hand. I am the phone. This is what phones are going to be from now on. I have integrated. Thank you for your call. Subdermal implants. They charge themselves with motion like a self-winding watch. I get signal across 95% of UK mainland, 98 by next year.
It was ringing. You were ringing.
That's the speaker. So small. On the phone, I had it implanted. My hand is the phone. I am the phone. I am the phone.
So you and AI as one. That's what this is all about. The phone isn't obviously going to become obsolete. So when they're telling you it's going to become obsolete, you better pay attention to it. And keep in mind, Nokia, which most of us thought was dead and buried, right? Who's even thought about Nokia in the last decade or so? Not many people. Like Nokia was one of the front runners of the first phones when they came out, like Blackberries and those things, right? Since then, there's like nobody's got a Nokia phone. You know, I mean, maybe someone does, but I mean, it's not very, you don't go to a store and that's like right in front of you. Big Nokia signs, right? It's always Apple or Samsung or one of those companies, Trump's new phone. But Nokia actually teamed up with Trump, and Nokia has had a resurrection. Trump and Nokia have a $4 billion U.S. investment plan to expand domestic manufacturing for AI-ready network connectivity. And this is Nokia's president and CEO, Pekka Lundmark. Let's listen to what he says about the future of the phone, since he's the CEO of Nokia, which is now working directly with our government, and they're talking about expanding network connectivity. Well, listen to what he says.
I wanted to ask when you all think we're going to move from this form factor to something that's on your face, glasses, and when computing's all on the edge.
All right, 50 seconds. Who wants to answer quickly?
I think it will go. It will. First of all, it will definitely happen. I was talking about 6G earlier, which is around 2030. I would say that by then, definitely the smartphone as we know it today will not anymore be the usual kind of the most common interface. Wow. Many of these things will be built directly into our bodies.
So he's talking about it being inside your body, right? But you'll say, oh, Donald Trump doesn't know anything about it. He's just making deals and trying to make USA prosper. And well, here's Donald Trump talking about it, 6G, the 6G network being under your skin.
So we're into 6G now. I just finished 5G. I was a leader on 5G getting that done. And now they're up to 6. Let's do it again. What does that do? Give you a little bit deeper view into somebody's skin? See how perfect that is? I like the cameras the old days. So they just had a nice feature. Now they cover every little. Let's see, Michael, you're in good shape. You're not going to... But I tell you, it's the 6 is coming, huh?
Right, so Trump could say it. He could tell you flat out. Nokia tells you that 6G by 2030, which is a part of Agenda 2030, will be in your body. Trump says, hey, I don't know. They're talking about cameras under your skin, all this stuff, right? And then if you pay attention and you read the stuff that's out there and you understand how frequencies work, you'll say, wow, these are strange stories, like scientists who want to use people as antennas to power 6G, right? You could ask AI. The human body doesn't actually produce 6G, but the upcoming 6G wireless tech is expected to actively utilize the human body. Researchers use the body as a natural bioantenna to harvest waste background energy and power medical sensors, right? Energy harvesting, your energy, your body as the antenna, which sounds a lot like, well, if you understand Satanism and the occult and witchcraft, what they do in practice is really a form of harvesting energy through witchcraft and sorcery. And it all goes back, of course, for people who actually understood the Matrix, who looked at it more as, as a warning of what was to come, even though obviously it was predictive programming. The creators, transgenders, knew exactly what they were handed the script and told to make the movie. But most people look at it and they're like, whoa, crazy. They look at things, say, like, it's like the Matrix almost, but they don't understand the core of the Matrix, right? But literally, the Matrix talked about what? Turning you into a battery.
The human body generates more bioelectricity than a 120-volt battery and over 25,000 BTUs of body heat. Combined with a form of fusion, the machines had found all the energy they would ever need. There are fields, endless fields, where human beings are no longer born. We are grown. For the longest time, I wouldn't believe it. And then I saw the fields with my own eyes. Watched them liquefy the dead so they could be fed intravenously to the living. And standing there, facing the pure, horrifying precision, I came to realize the obviousness of the truth. What is the Matrix? Control. The Matrix is a computer-generated dream world, built to keep us under control in order to change a human being into this.
No. I don't believe it. It's not possible.
I didn't say it would be easy, Neo. I just said it would be the truth.
Stop.
Right. A system of control. Controlling what? You. You turning into the antenna. 6G running through the internet of bodies. And eventually we go from a digital ID being something like we're seeing they try and implement now. They can't come out now and say, look, the digital ID is your body getting scanned. Nobody's going to be on board. They're having a tough enough time getting people to just transition from the physical to the digital. They can't believe so many people are against transitioning from the physical ID to a digital one. They figure people would just go, whatever, who cares? But they don't want it because there are some who are awake. And there's also just a lot of people who don't want to be bothered with it. And then there are some who are not conspiracy theorists, even though we're not theorists. We're factual, truthers telling the truth of what's occurring. They don't want to deal with it either because they're concerned in some ways that too much information would get fed to the government, even though they still trust in their government. They go consent to be governed by voting, etc. And never forget, ladies and gentlemen, these tie-ins when it comes to the Internet of Bodies and, of course, the birth of the Internet. Right, we know DARPA created the internet, but the World Wide Web, WWW, was started where? At CERN, right? It was started at CERN in 1989, right? And we've all seen that logo for CERN. What is it? Oh, 666. You see it right in broad daylight, right? And what does the Bible tell us about that verse? In the book of Revelation, chapter 13, verse 18, here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666, as in 666, in broad daylight, and of course, World Wide Web, WWW, for anyone that doesn't pay attention to what that means and why you have to type that still when you go to websites. W in Hebrew is the number 6, and you have 3 6s. So the objective here with a digital ID is eventually to get under your skin, to turn you into the phone. As crazy as it sounds, it's all in front of you for you to see. It's just a matter of whether you're willing to accept that this is the reality that they're trying to create, or you're too afraid to accept it that you're willing to get tricked into it eventually. The digital ID is going to be you. This transition starts with the physical moving to the digital phone, and the digital phone, just like a flip phone, being forced out of your life, where they say, we're not doing it anymore. We're not selling it. We're shutting your phone off, like they did for people with 2G and 3G that didn't want to go to 4G, then 5G to 6G. They say you don't get an option. And then you go, well, wait a minute, how am I going to bank? Because they don't let me bank without my phone anymore. Well, then I guess you're not going to be able to. You have to live like the Amish. And even the Amish have cell phones, so everybody is going to eventually be screwed. And it turns into under your skin, as he said at Nokia, as I've shown you with how the world looks in television series produced for children like Stretch Armstrong with the Smart Mark, how everything runs through your flesh, even being controlled via frequencies like 5G towers, to guys like Klaus Schwab and Mr. or whatever Demon Harari have told you. It's about under the skin tracking and monitoring.
I was talking about 6G earlier, which is around 2030. I would say that by then, definitely the smartphone as we know it today will not anymore be the usual kind of the most common interface. Wow. Many of these things will be built directly into our bodies.
By the sudden rollout of Rook Unlimited's most fantastic device ever, the Smart Mark. Because the Smart Mark is more than just a phone. It's part of you. Use it as cash and even shoot video. Distribution points are all over the city. The Rook Unlimited Smart Mark is worth the wait.
The Smart Mark has brought order to my life.
And the best part? It's absolutely free.
23% of the population has been given the Smart Mark, number 1.
Time to test our system numbers. Put our new recruits to work. Subtly.
We should find the Flex Fighters.
I ought to find the Flex Fighters.
We should find the Flex Fighters.
You call yourself a man of science. World order is our destiny. Submit to a Smart Mark and join the glorious victory of order over chaos.
People think Smart Marks are brand new Rook tech that will improve their lives.
But your chip makes it possible to control everyone in Charter City, whether they're marked or not.
Digital ID for me is a very big part of the future, and let me explain why. So if you take the changes you've been making at Sberbank, because you've become not just a bank, but also a technology company, right? And you've been using technology to change the whole way you interact with your customers. So digital ID is, for me, absolutely crucial because, for example, on COVID, what is the problem with this coronavirus? The problem is it's not a disease that's so serious that it's like the plague, right? Most people who get it will survive it. However, it's bad enough, and we all know people who've had it and had it badly enough that you don't want to get it. So the problem is you have to lock down the entire economy in order to deal with the small number of people who get it and are going to suffer badly. A way out of this is to be able to test people several times, and for people to actually have a biometric identity which can say, look, I've been tested, or I've had the disease and here are my antibodies, so that life can get back to normal. So your digital ID can play a part in COVID, but also if you think of the transactions that you want to do now with your customers, it's much simpler for them if they have a digital identity. Or you take the big issue in the Western world today, which is, quite apart from COVID, I would say is worries about immigration, who has the right to be in your country, who has the right not to be. Without a form of identity, it's very hard to tell who's got a right to be in a country, who's not. So inevitably, governments are going to move in this direction. Absolutely inevitably.
Why? Because in order to open an account, you need to have an ID.
Right.
And I have to say that when I started this job, there were actually very little countries in Africa or Latin America that had one ubiquitous type of ID. And certainly that it was digital. And certainly that it was biometric. And we've really worked with all our partners to actually help that being, to grow this. And the interesting part of it is that, yes, it is very necessary for financial services. But not only, it's also good for school enrollment. It's also good for health, who actually got a vaccination or not. It's very good to get your subsidies, from the government. So this has not only effect to the financial services. It's a very important issue.
So let's have a digital health certificate
acknowledged by WHO, if you have been vaccinated or tested properly, then you can move around. So for the next pandemic, instead of stopping the movement of the people 100%, which clog the economy globally, you can still provide some movement of the people. Indonesia has achieved, G20 country has agreed to have this digital certificate using WHO standard, and we will submit into the next World Health Assembly in Geneva as the revision to international health regulation. So hopefully for the next pandemic, we can still see some movement of the people, some movement of the goods, and movement of the economy.
COVID is critical because this is what convinces people to accept, to legitimize total biometric surveillance. If we want to stop this epidemic, we need not just to monitor people, we need to monitor what's happening under their skin, their body temperature. Like we walked in here, we had to go through a body temperature test. No, I think maybe in a couple of decades when people look back, the thing they will remember from the COVID crisis is this is the moment when everything went digital. And if this was the moment when everything became monitored, that we agreed to be surveyed all the time, not just in authoritarian regimes, but even in democracies. And maybe most importantly at all, this was the moment when surveillance started going under the skin. The biometric sensor. It's the thing, it's the gadget, it's the technology that converts biological data into digital data that can be analyzed by computers. And having the ability to really monitor people under the skin, this is the biggest game changer of all. With this kind of surveillance, I mean, you watch the big president, the big leader, gives a speech on television. The television could be monitoring you and knowing whether you're angry or not, just by analyzing the cues, the biological cues coming from your body. So people are now watching us online, all over the world, this conversation. Now, maybe even right now, the people who are watching us are being watched and analyzed. And the thing is, it's not just you're now watching this. The thing is, we know that you're watching this, and we also know how you feel. Are you angry about what you hear? Are you frightened? Are you bored? This is the kind of power that Stalin didn't have. When Stalin gave a speech, everybody, of course, clapped their hand and smiled. Now, how do you know what they really think about Stalin? It's very difficult. You can't have a KGB agent following everybody all the time. Even if you do it, he's just watching your outside behavior. He doesn't really know what's happening in your mind. But in 10 years, the future Stalins of the 21st century, they could be watching the minds, the brains of all the population all the time. And also they will have the computing power to analyze all that. It's not just having an agent following everybody all the time. The agent in Stalin's days writes a paper report, and you have these millions of paper reports piling up in Moscow. Somebody needs to read them, to analyze them. That's impossible. Now you don't need human agents. You don't need human analyzers. You just have a lot of sensors and an AI which analyzes it, and that's it. You have the worst totalitarian regime in history. And COVID is important because COVID legitimizes some of the crucial steps, even in democratic countries.
The really big thing is hacking human beings. To hack human beings, you need a lot of biological knowledge, a lot of computing power, and especially a lot of data. If you have enough data about me and enough computing power and biological knowledge, you can hack my body, my brain, my life. You can reach a point when you know me better than I know myself. And once you reach that point, and we are very close to that point, then democracy, the free market as we have, and actually all political systems, also authoritarian regimes, we have no idea what happens once you pass that point.
Now, in the past,
Many tyrants and governments wanted to do it, but nobody understood biology well enough. And nobody had enough computing power and data to hack millions of people. Neither the Gestapo nor the KGB could do it. But soon, at least some corporations and governments will be able to systematically hack all the people. We humans should get used to the idea that we are no longer mysterious souls. We are now hackable animals. Data might enable human elites to do something even more radical than just build digital dictatorships. By hacking organisms, elites may gain the power to re-engineer the future of life itself. Because once you can hack something, you can usually also engineer it. And if indeed we succeed in hacking and engineering life, this will be not just the greatest revolution in the history of humanity. This will be the greatest revolution in biology since the very beginning of life 4 billion years ago. For 4 billion years, nothing fundamental changed in the basic rules of the game of life. All of life, for 4 billion years, dinosaurs, amoebas, tomatoes, humans, all of life was subject to the laws of natural selection and to the laws of organic biochemistry. But this is now about to change. Science is replacing evolution by natural selection with evolution by intelligent design. Not the intelligent design of some god above the clouds, but our intelligent design and the intelligent design of our clouds, the IBM cloud, the Microsoft cloud. These are the new driving forces of evolution. And at the same time, science may enable life after being confined for 4 billion years to the limited realm of organic compounds. Science may enable life to break out into the inorganic realm. So after 4 billion years of organic life shaped by natural selection, we are entering the era of inorganic life shaped by intelligent design. So does the data about my DNA, my brain, my body, my life, does it belong to me or to some corporation or to the government or perhaps to the human collective? Humans are now hackable animals. You know, the whole idea that humans have, you know, they have this soul or spirit and they have free will and nobody knows what's happening inside me. So whatever I choose, whether in the election or whether in the supermarket, this is my free will, that's over. Free will, that's over.
That's over.
Over. Today, we have the technology to hack human beings on a massive scale. Yeah, I mean, everything is being digitalized. Everything is being monitored. In this time of crisis, you have to follow science. It's often said that you should never allow a good crisis to go to waste, because a crisis is an opportunity to also do good reforms that in normal times people will never agree to. But in a crisis, you see we have no chance. So let's do it.
Vaccine won't help us go to
the
test, of course.
The vaccine will help us, of course. It will make things, you know, more manageable. Surveillance. People could look back in 100 years and identify the coronavirus epidemic as the moment when a new regime of surveillance took over, especially surveillance under the skin, which I think is maybe the most important development of the 21st century, is this ability to hack human beings, to go under the skin, collect biometric data, analyze it, and understand people better than they understand themselves. This, I believe, is maybe the most important event of the 21st century.
One of the features of this fourth industrial revolution is that it doesn't change what we are doing, but it changes us.
The difference of this fourth industrial revolution is it doesn't change what you are doing, it changes you. If you take genetic editing, just as an example. It's you who are changed, and of course this has a big impact on your identity.
And offer certain kinds of possibilities that have to be careful about. You know, when you began to do that kind of gene editing, some people worry that you are changing what it means to be human.
Yes, that's the problem. Of course, the new industrial revolution offers us many opportunities, but it raises manifold questions on the ethical, but even legal implications. And we have to be prepared for it, and that's what we want to do in Davos next year. So this forced industrial revolution is, it doesn't change what you are doing. It changes you. If you take genetic editing, just as an example, it's you who are changed.
And that's the world. That's what they're trying to create. It's a digital prison. And people don't want to believe it because there's the number one addiction in the world is technology. All you'll ever hear about is fentanyl, drugs, pornography, alcohol, all these things, which are very bad addictions. But the number one addiction in the world is tech. And nobody wants to admit. They're like, I'm not on my phone that much. I don't care that much. Go out in public and see how many people are on their phone. Go sit somewhere. Go sit in an airport. Go sit in a mall. Watch how many people are looking down at their phone. Everybody is. It's the ultimate addiction. And now they just have to figure out how they can get you to accept it. Eventually, they're just going to go, you know what? The world is too weak. There won't be an uprising. People are not going to resist and veer away and start their own government. These people are voting, so they're consenting technically to be governed by us. We're just going to tell them, look, your license expires then, and you're not going to be able to drive without a digital ID. You're not going to be able to do this without it. You're not going to be able to do that without it. You're not going to be able to bank without it. So you're going to have no choice. And people are going to complain, and they're going to hold up little signs and say, I don't want the digital ID. But eventually they're all going to comply because they're not going to separate from their technology. And they're going to do things like we see in the digital airport rules, no more passports, digital this, biometrics. And of course, it all leads to this digital ID that they bring in and eventually get underneath your skin. So King Charles is letting you know, with his crown on his head, his fake crown that he wears, that the global government is coming. And these guys want it implemented before they leave the world stage. They want to be known as the faces who brought this in for Satan himself, because this is Satan's control grid, control system, frequencies that can actually end up controlling you. Because when this digital ID is a part of your body and you're one with machine, you're no longer one with God. You're no longer God's creation. That's what it really comes back to, right? God made us all unique and all different. We all know that, right? Everyone's like, well, I'm different. So, but literally, you all have your own DNA. We all have it, right? Every one of us has our own DNA. You see on the true crime shows, they found him because of DNA. It was a guy they never even knew. He lived in Timbuktu. They went and found him. Didn't even have him on the suspect list, but we know 100% he's the killer because we got his ID. Then we found out he was in the town that same week, and then everyone goes, I guess so. Yeah, it makes sense, right? Well, how'd they do? Well, because he had his individual ID. Well, what is the thing they're trying to change? That's what gene editing is, mRNA, these vaccines, getting it in your body. It edits you. It changes who you are, as Klaus Schwab said. And once that happens, you're no longer a creation of God. You're a creation of Satan. You're an experiment of man. But these aren't men who are doing this. These are demonic entities that are doing this to humanity, changing and manipulating your genetic code. Once this is implemented, once they get inside of your body and under your skin, then most of these people will not be able to be saved. It says it clear as day in Revelation chapter 14, verses 9 through 11. A third angel followed them and said in a loud voice, if anyone worships the beast and its image and receives its mark on their forehead or on their hand, they too will drink the wine of God's fury, which has been poured full strength into the cup of his wrath. They will be tormented with burning sulfur in the presence of the holy angels of the Lamb, and the smoke of their torment will rise forever and ever. There will be no rest day or night for those who worship the beast and its image, or for anyone who receives the mark of its name. The digital ID is the mark, okay? For people out there that go, well, it's all about worship. It's about Sunday worship. There's no worship involved with the digital ID. We'll just wait for the worship aspect of it. Because when we talk about energy harvesting and we talk about the addiction of the internet and being online constantly, and then you start realizing what their plan is in the future, right? Do you notice how they're getting people now to monitor screen time and limit screen time, but these people are addicted to their screen time? Well, Artificial intelligence is going to play a big role in worship and energy harvesting and people being on their knees worshiping it so that it functions and it runs. And they'll be told that they have to worship the beast and its image while they already have the mark to be able to participate in this beast system. So hopefully that makes sense for people out there. I do my best to try to break these things down. And, going from King Charles talking about the digital ideas, showing you all of these things, how they've tried to implement, how they're trying to implement, the tactics that they're using to manipulate you. Like your voting, voter fraud and immigration and all this other crap. That's the pivot from COVID, because COVID didn't work. And if this doesn't work, they'll pivot to something else, or eventually they'll just do what King Charles just did and say, you know what? Screw you. You're not going to do anything about it. We know you're not. There's more of us, the people, than them, which is the only thing that they fear. But the stupidity and the division via politics has so much control in our society today that they know the people will not unite against these people because they'll still stay affiliated to their party like a little communist puppet would. So all these guys go to China. The story that comes out is about, Iran and oil and the Strait and gasoline prices. And the reality is that all these tech guys are there. And China's the government that they want in place around the earth. The global digital infrastructure government, where digital ID is in place and a social credit system is in place. And then when they implement the carbon laws, like you heard King Charles talk about, we heard Fink talk about, the carbon laws are their way of duping you because they say, look, when they're talking about inequality and skin color, they're manipulating you into thinking this is something with black and white, gay and straight. They're going to use the carbon footprint as a unity tool by saying, look, it doesn't matter what your skin color is. We all breathe air, right? We're all living and breathing out carbon, even though you're the carbon emission they really want to obviously eliminate. The carbon footprint is something that nobody can avoid, right? No matter what your party is, your skin color is, we all have to deal with it for the future of humanity. That's the deception that they'll use. And then it'll be, well, you have to ration your water. And you go, I don't want to. Well, look, your neighbor's doing it, your other neighbor's doing it, now we're doing it to you. And you're going to go, I don't want to, I'm not going to do it. And then you realize, wait a minute, I have smart meters on my home. The government's now shutting off my electricity, making me ration that. Oh, I'm going to the store, and it's getting declined my card. Because now that we have a universal basic income, which Elon Musk wants to bring in, now I can't buy all the stuff I used to buy. And they go, well, that's because you're over-consuming. Be nice. Let everybody have the same amount. Well, it's the same thing as a prisoner. This prisoner gets a plate, he gets the same amount of slop as the guy next to him. Same as you. And people who don't have money will go, well, that's good. I don't want the guy who's rich to have more than me. Right, but these people will always have more. And they'll make all of us second-class humans, where they demonize us and belittle us and then control our movements. Can't go here because your carbon footprint. Can't go see grandma because your carbon footprint. Can't go outside, right? COVID was the precursor. The quarantining, the mask wearing, the staying indoors, the closing of stores early, the stores not having food on the shelves, all conditioning for what's coming with the digital ID and then the carbon footprint. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.